I discovered my ex is still married. What happened next took everyone by surprise. The clerk's pen hovered, then circled one stubborn word on the screen. Married. Damon stood 2 feet away, wide shoulders easy, a grin like a billboard for confidence insurance. It's just a formality, he told the clerk, drummer tapping the counter. We're on a tight timeline. I came here to renew my passport after a budget flight debacle, not to watch a man I once loved file a wedding license he wasn't free to sign. My name is Mara. By day, I'm a community librarian who can tell you which form to fill out, which archive to search, and which rumor holds water. By night, I try not to think about Damon, the beautiful mistake who always said paperwork was furniture for cowards. I left him because every conversation became a stage, and I was only scenery. I thought that was our past. Then the screen blinked, the clerk frowned, and Damon's smile grew brighter, like adding more light could burn away the ink. If I speak up, I risk being the jealous ex who ruins a wedding, a cautionary tale at somebody else's reception. If I stay quiet, I watch a lie grow legs and walk into a church. The clerk asked for a certified decree number. Damon slid a copy from a leather folder, so new it still smelled like the department store. My hands went cold. The stamp looked wrong from 3 steps away, a circle that didn't quite circle. Brooke, his fiancée, was outside by the window, smoothing her dress, practicing happy. I told myself to let adults make adult choices. I told myself I was over this. Then the clerk's eyes met mine, curious, wary, and unmistakably asking if I knew something she didn't. I realized the safest thing would be to say nothing and watch anyway. 2 years ago, I left Damon at a diner under fluorescent remorse. He'd been between jobs for 8 glittering months and said tax seasons were suggestions. I paid the check, slid him a list of interviews, and he slid it back, saying, "Paper cuts my soul." When we were good, he turned errands into adventures, late-night pie, roadside radios, a thrift store tux for a Tuesday. When we were bad, he drifted through consequences like smoke, insisting they couldn't hold him. After we broke, he sent a postcard from Vegas. Paperwork finalized, freedom achieved. No dates, no docket numbers, just his signature like a flourish on a blank page. I kept it in a drawer with the orphan keys and dried pens. Last month, he messaged me out of nowhere. No hard feelings? Might invite you to the wedding. Closure is grown up. I typed congratulations and didn't hit send. The fresh wound? My mom, who loved his laugh, told me I'd never find someone so magnetic. Some people just live bigger, she said, with a look that meant I lived small. I shelved the comment with cookbooks nobody uses and tried to be gracious. But there's a tone Damon gets when he promises everything is handled. It's the tone of a magician assuring the audience he hates secrets. At the counter, I heard it again. All finalized. Brooke turned, caught my eye, and smiled the smile of a woman who wants everyone to behave. The clerk asked Damon to wait by the window. Damon winked. The screen with "married" stayed open, blinking like a hazard light you convince yourself is decorative. I told myself people change, then remembered his postcard had no case number. I didn't go to the clerk. I went to the public terminal by the microfilm cabinet and searched the county database out of muscle memory and a lifetime of following instructions. The divorce docket populated like a slow confession. Petition filed. Service attempted. Hearing stayed. A flurry of withdrawals, continuances, and one proposed decree, never stamped received. I scanned dates. Damon's freedom achieved postcard landed 3 weeks before a hearing that was later marked no appearance. I closed my eyes and pictured him standing up on nothing and calling it a stage. A woman in a blue cardigan asked if I was done with the terminal. I said I needed 2 more minutes and felt myself slide across the line between curious and responsible. I printed an index, hands shaking. At the counter, the clerk, her tag read P. Patel, asked Damon for the decrees book and page. Damon said, "My lawyer will email it. We're good." The circle on his stamp wobbled like it had been traced by enthusiasm instead of ink. I stepped back, telling my conscience to stop narrating. But narration is what I do. Dates, file numbers, where one thing touches another. If I'm wrong, I embarrass a man I once loved and a woman who did nothing to me. If I'm right, a wedding becomes perjury with catering. Brooke came in from the window, radiant and efficient, as if she could schedule sincerity. "We're just verifying one thing," the clerk said gently. Damon laughed. "Tell her I'm free to love." The printer at my terminal spit a last page. Decree, not on file. I folded the page and wondered who I'd be if I pretended not to see. I left before Damon could notice me hovering like a storm cloud over a sunny photo. Outside, Brooke adjusted a eucalyptus bouquet and asked the air, "Do you think he should have worn the navy suit?" I kept moving. At home, my apartment smelled like lemon cleaner and old books, a refuge designed to be boring on purpose. I pulled the Vegas postcard from the drawer and studied the postmark, April 14th. The docket showed a hearing scheduled May 5th, then stayed June 1st, then withdrawn July 9th. Freedom achieved where? I typed an email to records at county.gov and deleted it. I typed one to Damon and deleted that too. Instead, I messaged the general inquiry line with a librarian's politeness. How to obtain certified copy of finalized divorce decree. Confirmation if none exists. Ms. Patel replied faster than I expected. Office hours, fee schedule, and one careful line. If a decree was not entered, there is no decree to certify. My pulse felt like a door someone kept knocking on. I thought about Brooke's bouquet, Damon's grin, and my mother's voice praising people who live bigger. Bigger, I realized, often means louder, not truer. I called a friend, and she said, "Block him. Save yourself." Sensible, merciful, but incomplete. If Brooke was me a few years ago, she deserved a real choice. At 10:12 p.m., a text from an unknown number. "Heard you were at the clerk today. Let's be adults, Mara." My finger hovered over reply as a second text appeared with a threat wrapped in charm. I didn't reply to the unknown number that night, but I screenshotted it, saved the timestamp, and wrote a one-line note in my rainy day folder. Unsolicited contact after clerk visit, 10:12 p.m. The librarian in me is not brave. She is thorough. In the morning, my group chat had opinions. Jess, block and bless. Chris, if it's not your wedding, it's not your problem. Nadia, who knows how much I hate mess, sent a voice note. You can care about a stranger's seatbelt without driving their car. I made coffee, opened a fresh notebook, and drew 2 columns. Boundaries/documentation. Under boundaries I wrote, no private meetings with Damon. No ambush confrontations. No social posts. Under documentation, certified copies only. Keep screenshots, record dates, names, places. If I did anything, it had to be clean enough to withstand bad faith spin. At noon, a DM arrived from Brooke's account, soft and wary. "Hey, I heard we were both at the clerk's yesterday. Would you be willing to grab coffee? No drama. Just woman to woman?" My thumb hovered. Damon had told girlfriends that all exes were jealous curators, as if facts were exhibits, to be toured, not believed. I typed, "Public place, 30 minutes, bring your questions." She replied, "Thank you." I printed the docket index and slid it into a manila folder with the Vegas postcard. Jess texted, "Don't go alone. It's a coffee shop," I said, which was technically a defense and spiritually a confession. At the cafe, Brooke arrived with shoulders squared by good posture and bad sleep. "I don't want to fight you," she said before sitting. "Neither do I," said. "But I won't guess when we can look." Then Brooke asked me to coffee, and I said yes, for documentation. We sat under a framed watercolor of a lighthouse and treated it like an instruction. Brooke's hands were steady until I mentioned the word decree, and then the steadiness became a performance I recognized from mirror years. "He told me it's finalized," she said. He showed me a copy. I slid my folder halfway across the table. "Copies are costumes until a clerk says otherwise." Her mouth pressed flat. "I need to see it from someone whose job is not Damon." I nodded and called the records line on speaker. Ms. Patel recognized my voice. "For confirmation," I said, "if a decree isn't entered, what exists?" "A draft," she said. "A proposed order, or wishful thinking." Brooke flinched like the lighthouse painting had flashed. I thanked Ms. Patel and hung up. "He'll say you're weaponizing bureaucracy," Brooke said, almost apologizing for him preemptively. "He'll say I'm humiliating him." "He might," I said. "But paper isn't a weapon, it's a map." She opened her purse and pulled out Damon's copy. The stamped seal had a crest I'd never seen on county documents. The notary block listed Shelby v. Commission expires June 30th, but the font looked like it had been dragged across the page. I wrote down the commission number and emailed it to Ms. Patel. 10 minutes later, a reply. Commission issued August 2nd. The date on Damon's decree, June 18th. Brooke stared like she could force numbers to blink first. Could it be a clerical error? She asked. Clerks make typos, I said, but time travel is rare. Brooke exhaled and reached for the lighthouse with her eyes. If this is true, she whispered, then everything else he touches might be paper too. The notary stamp existed on paper, but not in time. Once Brooke left, I walked 2 blocks to the county building, a cube of windows that reflected weather instead of truth. Ms. Patel met me at the counter with the patient expression of someone who keeps a city's heartbeat regular. I can't share private details, she said, but I can explain procedure. She showed me a laminated flowchart: petition, service, hearings, decree entered, certified copies available. If no decree is entered, she said, tapping the final box, nothing moves here. I asked about notary commissions. She pointed to a public lookup terminal. Shelby V.'s commission started August 2nd, renewed from an older one that lapsed May 31st. So on June 18th. I asked. No commission in force, she said, leaving the therefore for my conscience. I thanked her, requested a certified no-record letter, and stepped into sunlight that felt like cross-examination. At home, I tried the original spouse's cousin. Her name was Sherry, found through a Christmas photo tag from 6 years ago where Damon wore sincerity like a rented sweater. Sherry answered on the second ring, her voice honeyed by Georgia. We ain't talked to him since he promised a paper he never sent, she said. She moved on, baby. Didn't get around to the courthouse? I read her dates and docket entries. She hummed like a lullaby that had learned to carry grief. He called last fall for insurance, she added, offhand like gossip, heavy like granite. Said he needed proof they were good to go for coverage. My pen paused over the word coverage. Whose coverage? I asked, but the call crackled and dropped. The quiet afterward felt too loud to be honest. A room where someone had just hidden a suitcase. The cousin's lullaby broke, and a different name floated out. I called back, voicemail. I set the phone down and followed the thread that felt most like a wire: insurance. Damon had spent years calling paperwork decorations, but he loved benefits the way gamblers love free drinks. I searched the state exchange portal for public employer plans and noted which required spousal verification. Many did. If you never file a final decree, you can keep a spouse on paper while dating in sunlight. If that spouse stays on paper, you can promise coverage to a fiancé who doesn't read every box. I opened Damon's Instagram and, with the slow patience of a librarian shelving grief by decimal, scrolled to last winter. A photo, Damon with an elderly man in a wool cap, captioned "Family First," would do anything for this guy. Tagged at a rehab center. The man was Brooke's father. Comments mentioned a surgery date. Another noted insurance delays resolved, thanks to D. My stomach went cold. If Damon's still married status made him eligible for a family plan, as spouse or co-sponsor, and he'd parlayed that into coverage for Brooke's dad, then the lie wasn't decorative, it was structural. Pull one truth and a hospital bill falls on someone who can't lift it. I printed the post, the comments, the date. Then I ran a public records search on the rehab center's billing lawsuits, dry as sand, sharp as glass. One filing listed a guarantor named D.R. with a mailing address at Damon's condo. I didn't know if R was a typo or a breadcrumb. I knew this. Damon wasn't late to file. He was on time to benefit. In my inbox, a new message from an address I didn't recognize. Let's stop digging before people get hurt. Damon wasn't marrying for love. He was marrying for insurance. I built the plan the way I prep a storytime craft. Lay out supplies, label every step, expect glitter to get everywhere. Supplies, certified no record letter, copies of Damon's fake decree, the notary lookup printout, screenshots of Brooke's dad's surgery posts, the rehab center guarantor filing with D.R.'s initials, and timestamps from the threatening email. Steps. 1. Ask Ms. Patel for a brief verification appointment that requires Damon to present a certifiable decree, not a copy. 2. Loop Attorney Sullivan, a legal aid volunteer I know from the library's expungement clinic, to explain consequences in simple terms. 3. Invite Brooke, privately, no group text traps, so she hears it from officials, not from me. Glitter, Damon's charm, rage, or both. I recorded a short screen capture of the county search process, narrating each click like a tutorial for future me when I start doubting. At 7:41 p.m., I called Damon from a Google Voice number and let him talk. "Mara, you always twist paperwork into poetry," he said softly, like he was writing the script for my forgiveness. I asked for his decrees book and page. He said his lawyer would send it after the weekend. "We're on a tight timeline," I said, borrowing his own line with a smile he couldn't see. He shifted, the sound of leather and a man rearranging the truth. "Don't humiliate me," he whispered, and I heard the pluck of a violin only he could afford. After we hung up, I sent Brooke the appointment time and the ground rules. Public office, no shouting, no surprises except the ones paper makes. She typed, "I'll come," then added, "Please don't leave me alone with him again." Brooke insisted we still attend her mother's family dinner, because appear normal until we can act official. The table was a magazine spread. Candles, casseroles, a champagne flute at every plate like optimism could be poured. Damon kissed cheeks and shook hands, a maestro cueing applause. Halfway through salmon, he tapped his glass. "To honest love," he said, smiling in my direction like I was a student and he was presenting proof. "No secrets, no shadows." My fork paused midair. Brooke's hand found my knee under the table, a squeeze that said not here. Damon pivoted, lowering his voice near my ear. "You will embarrass yourself," he murmured. "You'll look obsessed. These people have Google." I felt heat crawl up my neck, the humiliating kind that makes you abandon math. He slid a little velvet box toward Brooke early. "Ring fitting tomorrow," stealing oxygen from the room so there'd be nothing left to breathe during questions. Then Ms. Patel texted from an unknown number I'd given her earlier for safety. "Appointment confirmed. All parties must present ID and original documents. No copies accepted." I showed the screen to Brooke under the tablecloth. Damon noticed the movement and smiled wider, the kind that uses teeth like fences. "Mara," he said lightly to the room, "tell them about your passion for documentation." Laughter drizzled like syrup. I raised my glass and said, "Documentation has saved more marriages than toasts." Brooke's mother changed the subject, and the conversation skated onto safer ice. Damon leaned in, breath sweet, and said, "Cancel it, or I'll cancel you with it." We arrived at the clerk's office at 9, 3 adults wearing the same weekday mask. Ms. Patel greeted us with measured warmth and a second staffer witness. Attorney Sullivan, joined by conference call from a quiet hallway, voiced the sound of a pen clicking open. "This is a verification meeting," Ms. Patel began. "To proceed with any marriage license, we need confirmation of your legal capacity to marry." Damon placed his leather folder on the counter like a magician's hat and produced the photocopied decree, the one with the time-traveling notary. "Original, not copy," Ms. Patel said, unblinking. Damon's jaw flexed. "My lawyer is in Cabo," he lied, "because I remember Cabo posts when they're real." Brooke took a step closer to Ms. Patel, like proximity could make courage contagious. I handed over the certified no-record letter I'd requested. Damon tried to snatch it back and failed, because once paper is stamped it grows a spine. "There could be a filing delay," he said, aiming it at Sullivan. "There can be," Sullivan replied, "but not for 2 years across 3 docket actions." Ms. Patel opened the notary database on the public terminal. "Commission started August 2nd, she read. "Your document purports notarization June 18th. Damon's hand clenched and relaxed in small performances. "Clerical error," he said, voice fraying. Sullivan cleared his throat. "Mr. Collins," he said, using Damon's last name like a stop sign, "present the original decree or acknowledge no decree exists." Damon's smile fell off like a sticker, and the mask underneath snarled. The room changed pressure. Damon's voice went from velvet to sand. "She's obsessed," he said, jabbing a finger toward me. "We dated. She couldn't let go." MS. Patel slid a laminated definition across the counter. "Bigamy, knowingly marrying while married." Her tone didn't rise, the paper did that. She stamped the license application, pending, verification required. Sullivan, a calm metronome, explained in everyday language, a false notarization is fraud. Attempting to secure benefits on the basis of a non-existent decree could trigger civil penalties. Any marriage solemnized before legal capacity is either void or voidable, depending on state statute. Brooke looked at Damon like a test she had already graded. Did you use being married to keep my father on a plan? She asked. Damon didn't answer, which is an answer that leaves scorch marks. We can sort this privately, he hissed, eyes flicking to the witness, to Ms. Patel, to the security camera that views humans as pixels. No, Brooke said, voice steady. We sort this where the lies were supposed to be paper. Ms. Patel requested Damon's ID. He slapped it down. She recorded the attempt to present an uncertified decree and the notary mismatch. I added the rehab lawsuit filing to the pile. Overlapping beneficiary entries suggest misrepresentation, Sullivan said gently. Damon pointed at me again. She set me up. You set yourself up, I said, and hated the satisfaction. Ms. Patel printed a receipt, application on hold, pending proof or denial, and, if warranted, referral to the district attorney. Damon lunged for my folder as security turned their heads toward our counter. The guard stepped between us with the quiet confidence of a man who has stopped worse decisions. Damon backed off, panting, the leather folder dangling like a costume that finally itched. Ms. Patel handed Brooke a brochure titled, Next Steps When a License is Denied, the kind of gentle apocalypse that saves futures by ruining mornings. Sullivan instructed us on simple things. Save everything, no posts. If contacted by investigators, answer politely and briefly. What about my father's bills? Brooke whispered. We'll find options, Sullivan said, but not on a lie. The fallout arrived faster than shame. Damon's cousin posted a story calling me, bitter librarian ruins love, and strangers hiked into my DMs with borrowed outrage. The library's Facebook page got a one-star swarm from accounts in cities our bookmobile has never visited. I filed an incident report with my director, who said, Do you need a day off? I said yes and felt both weak and wise. At night, I lay awake and replayed the meeting frame by frame until even the truth felt edited. The district attorney's office emailed Brooke to confirm receipt of materials. A clerk there asked me to verify my screen capture's date. Damon called from a block number at 2:03 a.m., whispering an apology and a threat in the same breath. I can fix this if you don't talk, but if you talk, I'll make sure you're the crazy one. I wrote it down in the notebook labeled Rainy Day. In the morning, my mailbox held a subpoena-shaped envelope with my name wrong. It wasn't a subpoena, it was a letter from Damon's lawyer threatening defamation claims if I persisted in spreading falsehoods. Sullivan reviewed it and snorted softly. No letterhead, wrong statute citations, and we don't defame with clerk printouts. He drafted a concise response. Preserve all evidence, cease contact, communicate through counsel only. I forwarded the D.A.'s request, scheduled therapy, and cleaned my digital fences. New passwords, two-factor, a fresh email alias for officials only. I blocked numbers and saved voicemails. Brooke, meanwhile, started walking decisions back through her life like a firefighter mapping exits. She told her family. Some believed instantly. Some wanted Damon's version. Some demanded silence until things calmed down, which is how fires make homes out of tinder. We met weekly in the courthouse hallway after I finished the library's outreach shift, sharing small victories like contraband snacks. Her dad approved for a patient assistance program. The rehab suit settled with a charity fund's help. Ms. Patel's office updated its public FAQ to clarify notarization. I learned to separate help from rescue. Help is documents shared with counsel. Rescue is cleaning up a man's mess because he calls your restraint cruelty. On a Saturday, I drove to the ocean, stood by a lighthouse that wasn't watercolor, and practiced being a woman who keeps boundaries like promises. The breeze smelled like rust and salt and new intentions. My mother called. He looked so good with you, she sighed. He looked good everywhere, I said. He wasn't good anywhere. The tide reached my sneakers and reminded me I could step back. Months later, the clerk's office sent formal notice. Damon's application voided for failure to establish capacity, potential referral pending. Brooke's ring was back in a drawer. Her father's bills were boring, which is how you want bills to be. I returned to my desk behind the Ask Me Anything sign and recommended paperbacks about quiet people who do the right thing and sleep eventually. Here's what I learned. Paperwork is not romance's enemy. It is romance's seatbelt. Annulment versus divorce, void versus voidable, perjury versus oops. If you can say them out loud, you can recognize them in a story that wants to be a fairy tale. Keep dates. Photograph envelopes. Ask clerks. Believe stamps that hold. When your gut says, this circle doesn't circle, trust the geometry. If you're watching this and you're torn between being nice and being honest, remember niceness is often fear auditioning for approval. Honesty is messy and public and sometimes lonely, but it lets strangers become allies. A records clerk, a legal aid attorney, a woman at a cafe who asked for 30 minutes and got her future back. I still have Damon's Vegas postcard. I don't keep it as a wound. I keep it as a warning label. People who live bigger aren't always living truer. Ask for the book and page. Then read them. The next person who needs this might be you or someone you love.